Thank you for taking 10 minutes for this Friday's edition of CNN Student News. I'm Carl Azus at the CNN Center. This weekend, a significant anniversary takes place in America. Sunday will be 15 years since the deadliest act of terrorism on U.S. soil was carried out. On September 11, 2001, a group of 19 men connected to the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial airliners. One of the planes was crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. One crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. 2 planes were flown into the World Trade Center towers in New York City, and both buildings collapsed soon afterward. A total of 2,977 people were killed in the attacks, and the impact was felt around the world. For our show next Monday, we're planning an in-depth look at the events themselves and what happened afterward. Today, we're sharing the memories of a group of young people who were directly affected. If you're using this show in your classroom, teachers, we encourage you to preview it. It contains emotional accounts from the children of 9/11 victims, as well as some footage of the attacks themselves. Our coverage of current events, including the anniversary of September 11th, resumes next week.
I know you all lost parents on 9/11. How many of you lost a dad? Raise your hand. All of you. How many of you were so young you don't have a memory, like a real memory of your dad? And then how many of you will never forget? We're sitting here looking at these fountains and where those towers once were. And to anyone first, what does it feel like to come down here to Ground Zero?
It feels good. It feels like we've rebuilt. It's good that we're getting through it.
Getting through it. How many of you have looked for your dad's names? All of you. What was it like finding your dad's name?
Most people, when they lose someone, they have a grave to go to, and that brings them closer to that person. But for us, this is our parents' grave, and so it brings us closer, and it makes us feel more connected to that parent.
Do you guys agree that it feels like a grave in a sense? You're nodding. Why?
A lot of our parents' bodies weren't found after 9/11, so that could be literally where our father's bodies lay to this day, and that's our, it is a memorial, and it is our grave, and we can go there and we can communicate with the people we lost. That's like our safe spot with them.
Is that what you do? Do you communicate with your dad at that wall?
Yes, I talk to my dad. I like to put my hand on his name and talk to him and tell him everything that's going on.
But let me move on to that day. Juliet, you were 4.
Yeah.
You were 4. Your dad was a firefighter out of Queens.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find out that day?
I was with my grandfather that day. My other siblings were at school. I was in preschool at the time. He had the news on, which a 4-year-old shouldn't see. Another fireman who was retired from my dad's house had called my mother at work and said, was my dad working? And she said yes. So she left work to pick up my other siblings, and they came to pick up me. And my grandfather just had a gut feeling, and in front of all of us just said, I lost my son today. I lost my son. And my mom was actually furious at him that he had already had no hope, that he had already had that feeling that he was gone. But I, at the time, wasn't comprehending what that meant. I think it took a few months until I realized that he wasn't coming home.
Do you remember as a 4-year-old the images on the screen?
Yeah.
The smoke?
Yes, I vividly, the planes, and it's something that's very traumatizing for a child to see now later in life, that you comprehend what that actually meant at the time, because I don't think any child has the mind capacity to comprehend such a mass atrocity.
Nor should they.
No.
Nor should they. Jessica, tell me about the waiting that day.
I was starting high school. It was my second day at a brand new school. They announced on the loudspeaker that a plane had hit the Trade Center, and we had televisions in some of the rooms, so they broadcasted it. And I was surrounded by strangers, new people, and had to tell them my dad's in there. And I also had that gut feeling too.
You did?
I did.
What did that feel like?
I really had trouble speaking to people. I couldn't it was like a numb feeling. So I called my mom and I couldn't get through. There was a busy signal. We didn't even have call waiting. Kept calling and my aunt picked up, and that's when I knew something wasn't right, that my aunt was with my mom already, and I have 3 younger sisters. So we went through all of the schools in the neighborhood and picked each of them up, and they had each heard bits and pieces of it. So it was just telling them that Dad's building was hit, a plane went into the World Trade Center. We don't know where he is.
When did you know?
I knew when I heard when we were praying on the loudspeaker, because it was a few months before that I started learning about the World Trade Center bombing in the 8th grade. And my dad got out of that. I was in kindergarten. And I remember him as a 5-year-old coming home.
Covered in soot.
In soot. So I knew, and I remember asking him and like kind of realizing that was a terrorist act and asking questions as a 13 or 14-year-old should. And specifically in the summer of '01, we talked about that. So I knew like where he was. I knew what it took him to get down over 100 flights of stairs in 1993. And it didn't look like he was getting down.
You two, the brothers. Your mom was pregnant with you the day of, and she was what, on the subway?
Yeah, she was under the buildings when they got hit.
She was under the buildings when they got hit.
She worked across the street.
Worked across the street, VP
Yeah.
at her company. You obviously were in her belly. What do you remember?
I don't remember much from that time in general. I know I was in preschool that day. She tells us a story how she was, after the first building was hit, she went outside and she was kind of waiting for our dad. And then she had some sort of like pillow from, because she works for an aviation insurance company. So she had a pillow for when she went, like a special pillow that filtered air when you went to like a plane crash. So she was hiding under a taxi cab or something like that to make sure debris didn't fall.
You never got to meet your dad.
No.
How tough is that for you?
It's very tough, knowing that I won't have a father to grow up with. He's really stepped up to be like a very good figure to me, father figure.
He being your big bro.
Yeah, my family's really wrapped around me. My mom, she quit her job to be home with us. And she's just done everything.
Nicole, so your dad was in one of the towers on the 86th floor, and he picked up the phone. He called, what, a local TV station?
Yeah, he wanted to reach out to families all around the country and all around the area. He tried to bring a sense of calmness to people, even though in his heart he knew that he wasn't going to make it out.
I'm stuck on the 86th floor. A fire door has trapped us. Debris has fallen around us, and part of the core of the building is blown out.
How many people are with you, Jim?
I'm with one other person, and I'm told that people are aware of this. I'm on the 86th floor on the east side of the building facing the East River.
And what time
if
did you
I'm
get...
on the air, I want to tell anybody that has a family member that may be in the building that the situation is under control for the moment, and the danger has not increased. So please, all family members, take it easy.
How often do you go back and listen to his voice?
Pretty often. I like to listen to it a lot because it's the last thing I have of him speaking. It's what I remember of his voice since I was so young when I lost him. That's the last thing I remember of him.
And when you listen to it, what does his voice, his message mean for you?
It's really meaningful to me to see that in his last moments he was thinking about other people and putting them before himself.